Afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be able to call this meeting of the Carterton District Council to order at 4:45 p.m. Look, we'll be upstanding. Start with Karakia Timatanga. Mai te pai.
Ki te tai, mai te tonga, ki te awa ki,
Tēnei taha pūri Carterton. Whanonga haumi ai te toki. Kia ora. Thank you very much. And I want to welcome everybody here, and we will. I'm going to jump and just say welcome to our council. It just seems wrong for me to carry straight onto the agenda without firstly saying welcome to you all. It's really good to see you here, and thank you, Megan and Josie, for being here. We'll get to a stage where I'll actually ask for to do an introduction to everyone, but we'll move straight to apologies now. Are there any apologies?
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams, someone like to move that apology be accepted? Councillor Kerry Campbell, and seconded. Councillor Gallen, all in favour? Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Conflicts of interest, are there any declarations of conflicts of interest to be made? Take it. There are none. Moving to public forum, Roger, you've asked to be heard and the floor is yours. Please come to the table.
Oh, great, thank you. Well, at the last public forum, at your last meeting, you gave very positive reception to things I was saying on the rail service, and there was interest in inviting me to a councillor workshop and council possibly doing a submission on the regional public transport plan. Now, those didn't happen, and frankly, I've got no problem with that. And if I'd been in your position, I would have probably said the same, that you've got some very weighty things on your shoulders, notably local water's done well. And I think it's worked out very well because that's given me a free hand to do my own submission. It would have been difficult liaising with a public forum, with a councillor workshop and getting approval from staff and you. So it's worked out well, but the downside of it being my submission is it doesn't have anything like the weight it would have if it was from council. So I would like to ask, not now at this meeting, if you could see your way to say pass a resolution that you support it in principle sometime between now and the hearings in early May, then that would be great because I'll be able to go to the council and say this is my submission, but my local council supports it in principle. I don't know if that's in order, but if you could, that would be great. Basically my submission, I'm glad you've been able to have it in advance. I don't know if you've been through it. It's basically, I've got 3 points. One is there is a mindset problem, and I think that does need to be mentioned because if that's not tackled, you won't get any other change. Wairarapa is not really part of the metro system. It tends to be forgotten or neglected. I've got a couple of examples from the plan itself, which quite glaring, and I hope they suitably embarrass them. The second point is to get out of this idea that the Wairarapa rail service is all about commuters going in the morning and then coming out in the evening. If you look at the traffic on the Hill Road or the traffic flow data, it's all through the day, both directions. This is really two separate regions communicating with each other. So you need through the day services, and that will reach the objection of, oh, well, we can't do it. Well, you can do it, and I'll explain there. But the third issue, which will be the most difficult probably, is for tracking in the Hutt Valley. I mentioned last meeting that there are some real capacity problems. The Australasian Transport Research Forum paper, I don't know if you went into that, it's I think it's 25 pages or something. It's very, very detailed about rail modelling, but it's based on data from the Hutt Valley. And basically, if you forecast road traffic congestion, there's always a proposal for a new road going along with it. With rail, the methodology doesn't allow that, and rail extra track needs to be proposed separately. And really, they haven't thought of that, but they have thought of Waterloo Station, and they've said we want to do wonderful things by Waterloo. And I said, well, put 4 tracks at Waterloo in the centre of those plans. So I don't know what reception I'll get. I imagine they won't suddenly just put it in. It might be that they knock it back. But I was thinking if they do, I'll just be a dog with a bone with it and be pushing for it. Because if we don't get that, I don't think you're going to get any extra trains when the new rolling stock comes.
Yeah. Open for question. You want to have to take questions? Yeah.
That last statement you made was a bit earth shattering because the whole point is that we get extra trains. You're saying we'll get nice new rolling stock, but still only 2 in, 2 out.
Well, I think the fact that there's new rolling stock coming, there's the mindset that this is all about commuters. And so they've not looked at extra trains through the day because they say there are only 3 trains that go in. So I think it's probably not a conscious making an excuse, but it means they don't have to think about the wire wrapper. So they've said there'll be extra trains, but I think they'll face the capacity issues in the heart.
Mm.
And that will, I mean, they'll probably propose shuttles. Now, we did look, my colleague and I, when we were doing work as consultants, we did look at shuttles. They'll say a shuttle to Upper Hutt. Well, that won't be very attractive. The changing trains will be such a pain in the neck for people that it'll hit the patronage. You know, if you're on a train, you want to be straight into Wellington. So shuttles, that'll be a counter suggestion. It won't be very attractive. Mm.
Roger, I know this is the regional public transport plan. Have you thought about how the new trains and so forth would integrate with growth in the industrial area at Wainoa and more freight trains carrying logs or whatever?
Yeah, well, yes, I did cover that in the submission. I thought the freight trains, it would be great if there were more freight trains, because obviously that means less logging trucks on the road. But they would face the same issue of being stuck behind stopping trains. The capacity in the Hutt Valley, it'll just be too clogged up. So if you did have 4 tracks at Waterloo, that would enable, I mean, I think it would be great to tap that in with the issue. You know, it's another issue. If you're going to have expansion at Wainoa, it would be better to have that freight on rail rather than roads.
Mm.
But you're going to need the 4 tracks.
Have you, because you know, transport is your thing, Roger, and this paper's pretty thorough, and I'm not going to say that I understand every last paragraph of it, but some things leaked out to me. Have you had a chance to sit down and talk with people about these who put a lot of logs on trains and logs on roads and go to understanding? Because I see in page 8 you talk about rolling stock and logging in particular. I was quite surprised to learn quite recently that actual fact is the balance has not shifted to more, for them in particular, more logs on trains. It's still very heavily logs on roads. And clearly there's concern that even with the improvements, that may or may not translate into more freight trains. People are talking about more commuter services, but I just wonder if you've had the opportunity to have a chat to management down there and see what the issues are, whether or not that might help inform some of your thinking.
Well, I was really looking at passenger services, I must admit. I mentioned freight because if you're tackling the 4 tracks in the Hutt Valley, that's got potential to help freight.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something I particularly went into.
But the balance would be some people want to see more trucks off the road and more logging trains, and the balance there quite clearly is that how does that impact on more commuter trains, and where does that balance get struck, and where do we sit? So I think that too, when you talk transport plan, it's the whole picture of transport and communications that does concern me.
Well, I would mention also you need passing loops.
Yeah.
So at the moment, if you get the train in the morning, there's an empty logging train at Featherstone in the passing loop. And there's plans for passing loops at Maymorn and I gather Carterton. So all of that's going to help logging trains. I can see you're going to need those passing loops. If you get them put in, then that will open up the potential for more logging claims. But without the passing loops, I don't think I think, like you say, you'd have an issue. But the plans are in hand.
Just a question, you just mentioned the passing, the double tracking in Carterton, the passing. I thought that had been cancelled.
Well, I've tried to find out what it is. I've got a contact of a contact within Kiwi Rail who says, he isn't clear exactly when it's going to happen. I know it was on the plans. I mean, what you've heard, it might be pushed back. It was on the plans. He doesn't know when it's going to be coming. So it might be true. So, but there's more closer are passing loop, Maymorn, and there's a second platform as well.
If there was an opportunity, Roger, for you to speak at the Regional Transport Committee's hearings or meetings in the public forum space, would you be interested in doing that?
Well, I did notice. I noticed there's actually a meeting tomorrow, but of course I'm too late for that one.
We just had one. We just had one on Monday. Plus a workshop that followed after that, looking at the plan.
But I mean, it would help if, I don't know what you think of officially supporting my submission in principle. I don't know if that, because if I was speaking at their public forum, again, it would really help to be have some support from Carterton Council. Otherwise, it's just an individual.
Well, I can only draw the example of Simon Casey and who was the other offsider who spoke at the Wellington Regional Leadership Governance Committee and specifically spoke to their proposal on modernised State Highway 2. And they certainly got support at the table to their submission. It wasn't everybody. There were those who didn't support their submission, but it's certainly a good way of getting your view in there outside of a written submission process where you are part of the mill with every other submitter. I'll just ask you to think of that because I think, the more conversation around transport between Wellington and the Wairarapa, the better. And I do know there's a degree of frustration amongst all three councils as to where we're going. There's some good stuff happening. We're all applauding that and we're all grateful, but there's some stuff that isn't tidy. We know that. Yeah. So I was thank you for it. Thank you for keeping us. Are there any final questions from any councillor?
Just thank you for submitting your report to us earlier as well.
Yeah. Well, yes, I thought, because I know you mentioned that last meeting, and the more you can have in advance, the better.
It's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you with an answer on your question. So we had a chance to talk about it. Youth Council views on agenda items. Josie, please take the table.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Could you start by introducing your team, please?
So since our last 4:30 meeting, we have had the addition of 3 more youth councillors, with Duncan coming in July of last year, and then we've had Charlie and Anahira join us. And here today is Anahira, Brooke, Duncan, Farnby, and Asifa, and me, obviously. So yeah, you're going to talk to us about the new logo.
Yes, kia ora, I'm Asifa. I'm one of the original members from September 22, and since our relaunching during that time of the Youth Council, we decided to have a total revamp with the members, and also just decided to give the logo a new design, which was designed by me alongside with one of our ex-Youth Council members. Her name's Layla Shields. And we decided to just do a new logo that would show the rebranding and just kind of incorporate the new faces of Carterton Youth Council. And the logo itself incorporates all things that make Carterton, and there are hands as well, which are like interwoven, and that just shows the Youth Council working together and the people that we connect with.
Brooke, can you turn around and give us a show of the?
This one we prepared earlier.
This side.
So that's the logo.
Go.
Yes, sit down. Thank you.
Yeah, hand over back to
You
you.
design.
No worries.
Okay, first and foremost, I'd like you to thank you guys for all of you for moving back your days so that we could come and join. And we appreciate it a lot. So we have had a couple meetings since I last came to a council, an ordinary council meeting, and in those we have talked about the upcoming our upcoming annual plan. So the Carterton Youth Council and Megan are working through an annual plan to highlight the year ahead of us with inspirations from the Hastings Youth Council. Megan hosted a planning evening with the ordinary members of the council, and we worked through what we would like to see in the plan and what we would like to do in the coming year. We discussed such things as our own values, and we have incorporated that into our plan, as well as what events we would like to organise and host for the rangatahi, and what is important for us in the community. We have also had talked about the upcoming local elections and growing our knowledge and talk to the youth and about what we can do, what local elections look like. As for most of us, it's our first time voting, and most of us are first time voting in a local election. So we're also tomorrow we're going to a civics training, which should also help us in looking into what local elections look like and building our ability of knowing what to do, what we're looking for in local councillors, and building our own opinions on what's important for district councils that we live in. For the current agenda, we would like to comment on the proposal 8.1, which introduced the idea of the addition of Te Reo into the name of the event centre. We believe that this is an important thing to include, as the event centre is a hub for most of Carterton's arts, business and council, and having the inclusion of Te Reo is important for most of our council, and we would really appreciate if that has been taken into account. Thank you. I don't think I said everything.
Anything else on the agenda that any of the council want to express a view on 8.1?
I think it was just 8.1 that we looked.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Any questions from councillors? Yes, please.
Question, what events have you guys got planned for?
We're talking about holding an Easter event, getting all ages involved in a scavenger hunt of sorts around Carterton. We're seeing if we can put that together and what it would look like. And for future events along the year, we're thinking about a Halloween event, maybe, not stepping on Marston's tail with their Halloween event, and looking into a youth disco like the one we did last year, and other events scattered through the year. We'll plan when they come.
Oh, awesome. Sounds cool. Awesome.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to commend you guys on your interest in the local elections, and especially as it's first time most of you actually voting and doing some civics training and understanding more about what goes into local government. I reckon it's really commendable that you're putting that time in the mahi in.
Thank you.
And on your new logo.
All the hands to you.
All right.
I have a question just with regards to another item in our agenda. I'm not sure if it's something you guys discussed at your meeting, but with regards to our workshops and council meetings and our transparency and all that kind of thing. I just wonder how, as youth council, like, what's your views on your ability to access content from our council, and how could we better include you in the work that we're doing during, you know, school hours and university hours and whatnot?
As we mentioned last year, we would like to be involved in those workshops if they are ever opened to the public. If not, having documents easily available and shown clearly what the workshop was about and what might interest us specifically or people in general. So it's just clear what you guys talked about and then what is free for the public to consume, of course, as they are mostly private workshops.
Not anymore.
No.
Not anymore.
Our workshops are now all open to the public.
Oh,
And then there are minutes available on the website as well.
okay.
Yeah, so we're just discussing in the paper about making it potentially accessible in other ways as well. So having them all recorded so you could watch on YouTube and that kind of thing later. So just interested in your thoughts on that.
I think having records of it so we can go back and watch it, especially because it is mostly in school hours, is important for us, as the reading the minutes can get a bit confusing as not everything is written down, as that's complicated, of course. So live stream or posted videos would be excellent so that we can go back and look over it when we have our meetings and or when we are given the time outside of school and stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's helpful.
Any other questions? Thank you again. And I am looking forward to being there tomorrow at Civics. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, councillor Green, and move straight to 7.1. Minutes of the ordinary council meeting held 26th of February. I'm taking it the minutes have been read by all. Could I have some?
Just one on that. It says no apologies were received, but I think we had an apology for councillor Williams.
We did have an.
Yeah, that wasn't recorded on the minutes.
And
Just
8.9,
Just check that there was, because I thought there was.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out.
apprentice for the water overseer. I think my recollection, which is always a bit dodgy, is that I voted against the employment of the water race overseer, but in favour of the 50% reduction in corporate overhead. And I think that might be the case for Lou as well. So I think those are the wrong way around.
Can we check?
That's my recollection as well.
Yeah.
If we could check and make that adjustment, if that is the case.
My fault.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Any other changes, issues? So noting those amendments, could I have someone move that the minutes be approved? Deputy Mayor, correctly, and Councillor Della seconding. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. Going to 7.2. Minutes of the extraordinary council meeting on 12th of March. Likewise, are there any comments, questions, observations? Next minute. Could I have someone move that those minutes true and correctly, please? Councillor, thank you. Secondly, Councillor Ailing. You all in favour? Yes. Motion is carried. Thank you. So straight on to reports. 8.1, proposal to amend the name of the event centre.
Two people.
Got a koto.
Thank you for having me. I don't often come into this space, so it's nice to be back here again with you all. There were a couple of things in the report I just wanted to speak to before sort of opening the floor. One of them was about the financial impact. Some of you may recall that previously when we had talked about the idea of a rebrand or a renaming as part of the LTP workshop process, the cost was quite a bit higher, and I wanted to talk to why it was quite a bit lower this time. There's sort of a threefold reason for that. One of them is partly due to the timing. As we're coming into the end of the financial year, we can effectively split it across 2 years, which will obviously help us. And current staff skills. So we currently have someone on staff with an enormous amount of design skill. So in terms of, while creating a logo is a large piece of work up the front, in terms of implementing it, creating all the assets from it, we're able to do a lot of that in-house. So we're able to absorb a lot more of that cost just with our current staff. The other reason is the success of the Wairarapa Arts Festival, kind of randomly. The whole story of that is another sort of side piece, obviously, which we'll be doing a full report to council on as well. But because so much of the costs of the festival were covered by grants and sponsorship, we did better than we had projected. We also did better than we had projected in terms of ticket sales. So that took a lot of impact off our current marketing and advertising budgets, which we would have spent. So a lot of the money that we had earmarked for festival, we've still got. So that's good news. Some of the other things I wanted to speak to was, I think there's a really exciting opportunity here to work with iwi and to send a really conscious invitation to mana whenua to be more in our space and to be a part of the naming of this space as well. I think that further honours the generosity in terms of the gifting of the names of this room, all the other rooms around the space, and just to honour and show how much we value and honour our partnership with them. Our vision in the strategy adopted by council is obviously to be the vibrant heart of arts, culture and creativity in the Wairarapa. And I think there's a real opportunity to express this vision through a revitalised brand and name in order to market this much more effectively when our offering is so unique within Wairarapa. When close to 60% of our visitors last year came from outside of Carterton, effectively we already are the Wairarapa Event Centre. I also wanted to speak to something that I mentioned briefly in the paper in terms of these being difficult times, and this might be a way to send a message of collaboration and investment in facilities that we already have as a region. There are people around this table who were instrumental in the building of this space, and I really want to tautoko the grit and determination that it took to make this happen, and how fitting it would be to have a name that honours that contribution, not just to Carterton, but to this entire region. That's what I had to say.
Questions, comments, discussion. Just while everyone's gathering their thoughts, I have no doubt that people got some bullet points already written on their papers. Wairarapa is a Māori word.
It is.
And Wairarapa is glistening water.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole story around the name Wairarapa of our tupuna who came over the Rumataka Hills and in a rest period settled on a rock and peered through the foliage and could see this glistening, shimmering silver and didn't know what it was until he broke cover better and he's identified this beautiful, pristine, not like it is now, lake. And he I think the short version is he named it Glistening Water, and it's Wairarapa. And I think there's a question around branding. I mean, let's be clear, some of us are keen to brand and take advantage of the Wairarapa theme. And we know from talking to people in Wellington, if they hear an event advertised, the Pahiatua Art Show or the Carterton Art Show, they have one picture in their head, but if it's the Wairarapa, they have a different picture in their head. So I think it's the thing. So I'm guessing I'm really interested as much as I can name it. I know I could hear three of my whanaunga offering up ideas. How does that work when you have a name that everybody understands, Wairarapa Event Centre, which has got a Māori word, and then you have a separate Māori name?
Mm.
How, I mean, that's an exercise we'd have to go through. We couldn't decide that today,
No.
could we? but it would have to fit. It couldn't negate one and destroy your branding opportunity. So I'm really keen to have that teased out so I understand it better. That's all. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
How would you?
I think they can work together. I think Toi Toi in Hawke's Bay is a beautiful example of something that does both. So it's the Toi Toi Hawke's Bay Arts and Event Centre, I believe. Yeah. And so colloquially, sometimes it's called Toi Toi, but a lot of the time it's the Arts and Event Centre, and you kind of get to wear both hats a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I like hats.
Yeah. No.
I know why.
Oh, Brooke.
I do too.
I've been heard. Yeah, so floor's open.
Thanks, His Worship. You took the words out of my mouth. That was going to be my question, is how you incorporated Te Reo onto a name Wairarapa. And it's probably going to be difficult for me to go yes to option 2, because I'd really like to see how you, I'd like to see that happening, but I'd like to see how you're going to make it happen before I said yes to it.
Yeah.
Because if I say yes to it and then you do it, so how is that? Would it be brought back to us to say, yes, we agree with that, or would you just go and do it? So that's kind of where option 2.
Yes, yeah. I see the issue.
Make an amendment to the recommendation.
Yeah.
Respond. I think we would go to our iwi partners and ask them for a name that they might want us to consider or gift to the event centre. And we would bring that back to council, but I think that would be the way we would proceed.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Gallen.
I see like in 2020, they proposed the Wairarapa Event Centre, Carterton, and it was pretty close, I think, the voting. You haven't got in here, you've got option 1, Wairarapa Event Centre, but I still think when you look at the cons for it, page 22, there's a lot of locals who put money into it and stuff behind it. They would like to have, okay, Wairarapa, but looking up things, Wairarapa Event Centre, easy to find, I'm saying, but I still think the Carterton should be in there, although it's not an option. I'd like to see it in there, actually.
Yeah. I think we were concerned about the length of that, and also just a name that included punctuation, sort of, I think they had it with a comma, and how you could, I think there would be ways to position it as the Wairarapa Event Centre Carterton without having that be part of the formal name. I certainly don't want to lose any connection to Carterton. I don't think that's the aim of anyone here, but it's more to expand the reach of it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Just following on from Councillor Gallen's thoughts, I would tend to agree that there will be people in the town who put money forward and know that their rates have gone for it as well, that would feel that they're losing an asset that they had ownership over before. And just with regards to your point around length, surely adding Te Reo will lengthen the name of it as well. So I don't know if that's a fair point to make that would increase the naming.
If I might, I mean, we have all the names out there on those bricks of people who donated, and we have the board used to be on the front of those, and that was something that was done back then to give recognition to those people who made some of them quite sizable donations. Now they're tucked out the back and their names are peeling off, and I think that'll concern them more. And but it'll be interesting. I think time has moved on. Chris and I are one of the couples who made a big donation, and we believed in it. But I think we have moved on. And how would we, without slowing the process down, and without, if the council was of a mind to make a change, do we write to those people, or do we just say, well, look, we know?
We're not being elected to make
that's
decisions on behalf of our ratepayers.
I'm just trying to factor in some security for people, and people who might think that I'm in that space that we're elected to make a decision. I can see a strategic advantage that's bigger than the event centre, but it's but I'm hearing my gut feel they wouldn't mind. It would be validation of their greater vision.
Mm.
That's my gut from talking to people.
Investment is now in something bigger. Opposed to our.
My gut feeling is that they wouldn't mind because it would be validation that what they created was bigger than what they envisaged potentially at the time. Yeah. And I think they'd be proud of it, but I may get a phone call after this meeting and tell something quite different, but we'll see.
Been sent an email stating that.
Ron, I don't know anybody in Carterton who calls this place the Carterton Event Centre. It's called it the Event Centre, and I don't think that would change. So I don't think anybody in Carterton is necessarily going to lose anything. It's easy for me to say I didn't put any money in, but I didn't live here then. So I don't. My view is that we can change the name. I'd certainly take Aaron's advice from a marketing perspective. I know we've had some concerns raised about the cost of the change, but it seems to me from the perspective of the ratepayers, if we can get more use, that would be a significant benefit to ratepayers. In terms of the name, I don't think you want to come up with a name that you have to promote twice and explain too much. And I remember when talking about arts festivals, when Kokomai started, the first thing they had to do was explain what it was, whereas, the Wairarapa Arts Festival sort of takes one step out of the process. I was on the Economic Development Advisory Group when we suggested to the council that they look at changing the name. It was the only advice we ever gave the council. And it lost, and they ignored it. Anyway, that's all I have.
Brian.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Ron. Yeah, probably like a few of us, I've had a few phone calls and a couple of emails over the last over the weekend and the last few days, mainly from the older generation, and with concerns. 3 of the people did tell me that they had contributed way back, and they don't want to see anything changed, basically. 2 of them said, no, we don't want to change and we want to keep it the Carterton Event Centre. I think in Carterton we're fairly protected of Carterton property. And I think from what I can gather in the long conversations I had with one gentleman was that he was very worried about losing the Carterton identity, basically, and quite concerned. He was also concerned about including Te Reo into the name, which I pointed out to him, Wairarapa was a Te Reo name, like you've mentioned, Ron. So, so he wasn't, after I sort of explained that to him, he was a little bit better. But, from the people that I have talked to, there is a pushback that I can see from the older community that did contribute to it, whether it was in financially, labour or in kind. There's a lot of people are very proud of what happened here, and a lot of them weren't very happy when it was being mooted. But as I've found out since, a lot of the people changed their mind. So that's really good.
That shows that they can possibly change it again when they realise how much bigger and more exposure our town gets from having a name change.
Which was one of the things that I did point out to him. Yeah, there's an ownership thing.
3 years, Worship. The rebranding of the event centre was actually first discussed in 2016. Yeah. So it has been on the table for a while. I voted against it in 2020 for reasons as Brian's suggested, with the feedback that we did receive when this was put out. But I feel things have changed significantly since that point. for the whole of the Wairarapa with how we're slowly moving forward. And I think this would be a massive step forward for not just Carterton, but for the Wairarapa to look at renaming the event centre. So I'm very positively in favour of this, especially considering that we'll potentially be looking at amalgamation in the not too distant future. So, thank you for bringing this paper.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit confused in my opinion, but I'll voice what I'm thinking. I would have loved more of a business case around this, and I know this is a bugbear of mine, but it would have been really good. There's always an opportunity cost to the money being spent on the rebrand, and it could have been spent elsewhere within the centre. So it would have been good to see that, and also the projections for if we did change it to the Wairarapa Event Centre, what we think that could look like in terms of growth. I would have loved to be able to see all of that information, and I know that's not there. Talking to the public, my age, everyone's like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Do the Wairarapa Event Centre. Like, people know this area as the Wairarapa. You talk to someone from Wellington over the, like it is. So I really like that. I do like the idea of incorporating Te Reo, but kind of like Steve brought up, I'm just not exactly sure what that would look like. And if we're gifted a name, I'm assuming we take it. We couldn't say no. So that makes me just a little bit wary of that as an option. So as much as I would love it, I probably feel more comfortable just the Wairarapa Event Centre, which feels a little bit odd still, but yeah, I'm not quite sure how it would look with the Te Reo name. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
That's right.
I would tend to agree with what Lou's just said. My only other thought that we haven't sort of discussed, I was just reading the article in the paper this morning as well, and the quote that you shared at the start where you talk about it's a good opportunity for the councils in the region to work together. My hesitation with this, because I agree, being someone who lived in Wellington, I know the Wairarapa has a brand that is so valuable that Carterton as itself doesn't have that brand recognition. So I can understand why we'd want to be the Wairarapa Event Centre, and I lean towards that way as well. My only hesitation is it making us work together as a Wairarapa, or are we blindsiding our mates in Masterton who are about to put a whole bunch of money into their own facility? And I understand that we want to go, this is the facility in the Wairarapa, but if we want to have a collaborative Wairarapa approach to things, I would hope there's been some conversation before we vote on this. And in the paper tomorrow it says we've voted to change the name. We're the Wairarapa Event Centre, and the Masterton ratepayers start scrambling and the account. I'm just worried about the optics of how we're going to upset them if we've got talks around three waters being done together, amalgamation, all of these conversations. I wonder if this is putting the cart before the horse, and we're going to upset people big time with taking that name. I know I want to, but I don't know if it's wise. Is my only hesitation.
Can I share some, I mean, I'm always about looking forward, but this is a little bit of history. When we were discussing it in 2020, the majority of the elected members up in Masterton, and I know there have been changes since, all thought it was brilliant. And a lot of those elected members were also, if we put some funding into the Carterton Event Centre / Wairarapa Event Centre, that's going to save our ratepayers a whole load of money. We can have a bigger venue. So those conversations were going around between the elected members back in 2020, and the support was actually from them there.
But they've just put through their long-term plan that has funds for their own town hall. And so I just wonder if that support is still there when they are waiting for this new town hall to be built. I understand that was a conversation then. I just wonder if the cart has sort of, bolted at that point.
And then
It has been, and it was in the paper. Was it today?
This morning, or yeah.
I haven't seen today. I haven't seen anything negative about it in social media. So that's a positive.
I can tell you, I certainly have not. I've had phone conversations with Carterton North's mayor, and over the last couple of days, and no, that's not been raised. It's not been raised as an issue. I think it's fair to say that we also cheekily did suggest to them that if they wanted to save themselves a truckload of money, they could
invest here.
They can invest in this and create the Wairarapa Event Centre and reduce the burden on their ratepayers, but they didn't take that to their council table. So,
And I think too, we are elected to make decisions for our community. And yes, we have relationships north and south, but we need to be making decisions for our community. And as we've seen in the past, we have had conversations and have thought we had agreement from our counterparts, only to be sideswiped on various issues. I've had only one ratepayer, which I think we all got the email for, against this item on the agenda. All other people that I have spoken with, and they think it's a no-brainer as well, and that's across demographics. So I think it's time.
any further questions, comments, any wrap you'd like to leave us with before we make a decision, Aaron?
No,
I'm really interested in what your perceptions are around the certain marketability of, how that may or may not, how that will change the lens.
well, I think one of the things that's been really interesting out of the Arts Festival is how many people, particularly agencies like Destination Y and other people, have said, "Oh, I'm so glad you called it that. That just makes it so much easier for us to market outside." So that was a really resounding call. And I remember having conversations with people around this table about whether we'd had any pushback on that, and we didn't receive any. And it's something that I really notice if I'm at, say, the performing arts market and things. People say, "Where are you from?" And I say, "The Carterton Event Centre." And the always follow up is, "Where's that?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've started to say the Carterton Event Centre, Wairarapa, or in Wairarapa.
I always say the award-winning Carterton events. They always say, "Where's that?"
Next time. But yeah, we're really excited to kind of have an opportunity to, as well, that rebrand, which has obviously been mooted for quite some time now, near 10 years, because that brand is 15 years old now. It's particularly the logo I'm speaking about here, could really use a zhuzh. And it's a 15-year anniversary next year. So it would be lovely to see, I think, tie some of that into this. And we've got some exciting ideas for what that birthday might look like as well, which is cool.
And I guess the reinforcement for me is that I always look at Y Art as being one of our iconic institutions and events that have had. Councillor Cherry Campbell knows Y Art very well, and they chose Y Art for a reason. And and look at it, it's an event of national note and significance. Carterton. So. Anyway, so anyone final? I don't really want to have the last say. Anyone else? Right. Yes, thank you.
I think that the celebrations next year would be a really good chance as well to acknowledge the people who did make it a possibility.
Absolutely.
Knowing there might be a bit of feeling a bit uncomfortable with the name change, but making sure we bring it back to them and include them in the celebration. And we wouldn't have done it without them. So it's a good chance to acknowledge that again.
Okay. So I think each of us individually have our views, and they have been expressed here. So could I have someone, I think we're in a position to move to make a decision. Someone move that we receive the report, please. Councillor Newman, seconded by Councillor Cherry Campbell. All in favour? Against? Motion's carried. That is,
What are we going to do now?
So we'll test the water. There are two possible motions on the table. One is read a name change of Carterton Events Centre to the Wairarapa Events Centre, which is pretty clear, cut and dry. The other option is to change the name from Carterton Events Centre to Wairarapa Events Centre and to incorporate a Māori name, Te Reo Māori, or we take the third.
Can I suggest?
Yes.
Your Worship, if the first two options fail, there's no need to pass the third resolution.
Correct. Yes, that's right. The final resolution is a default. So I'm open to the floor for anyone who wishes to move, and we test the motion that is moved first.
I think that first we should move to change the name from Carterton Event Centre to the Wairarapa Event Centre and incorporate in the Te Reo Māori, because it didn't go through, then it would come back to just being the Wairarapa Event Centre.
or
Or,
the other.
Yeah,
you'd like,
I think we should start with that one.
Would it be rude if we asked our iwi partners if we did consider having te reo, even though Wairarapa is Māori, if we could ask for a short name to be gifted to us? That,
yeah, there is,
I know. I was thinking, it actually sounds really, really rude. Could you please gift us a name, but could it not be too long?
I think potentially, and I'm here to take, I'm just testing the air. Resolution, option 2, I will number.
Councillor Newman has proposed option 2.
Yes. Have,
I don't know if anybody's seconded.
so you've moved option 2?
Yeah, I think that's a logical order.
Is there a seconder?
Are you moving the te reo one?
And then we can have the discussion on it.
Yep.
So councillor Newman's moved option 2. Is there a seconder for option 2?
So is that the second option of the recommendation?
Yeah.
For clarity.
Call it option B.
Yeah.
2B. How about that? 2A, 2B.
Shakespearean.
Okay, so 2B, option 2B agrees to change the name from Carterton Event Centre to Wairarapa Event Centre and also incorporate a Te Reo Māori name. That is the one you moved?
Yep.
Okay, is there a second? Councillor Cherry Campbell as a seconded. So we're open for debate and discussion. And one of the things I'm wondering might help with that with a slight amendment that which gives you the mechanism to engage with iwi to find a suitable name and advise council on, bring that back to council. And you would have in that discussion, all the discussions around length and how do you get away with overriding one Māori name with another Ngāti name? How does that fit? But
Would it be appropriate, I suppose?
If it was an amendment and that the local, both iwi, Rangitani and Kainui be invited to offer up a te reo name as well, to offer up a te reo Māori name, full stop. That would be tandem, not exclusive, but tandem with Wairarapa Event Centre. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Am I making sense, Ron? So I'm just wondering if there's an amendment to the motion that says that both iwi, Rangitani and Ngāti Kainui be invited to offer up a Māori name to add.
For the Wairarapa Event Centre.
Wairarapa Event Centre.
Just a question. Was Aratoi called Aratoi Wairarapa at one point and then they dropped Wairarapa?
It was used to be called the Wairarapa Arts Centre.
Yes.
Yeah, formerly known as the Wairarapa Arts Centre.
And they've changed to Aratoi. And if you go outside of the Wairarapa, you say Aratoi. So
Aratoi Wairarapa Museum of Art and History.
Is that what it's actually called?
That's the full name.
sorry.
No.
We give,
Helpful.
I'm looking for,
We should- can I-
yes, yes.
Could I possibly suggest, instead of agreeing to a name change, that you instruct staff to go away and investigate the name change and bring it back to council for endorsement?
Can we agree to a name change, but leave it to the council officers to come up with some suggestions?
We would, with regards to Te Reo Māori, I
Yeah,
would go to both our iwi partners and say, council's passed a resolution, we would like your input on a name. And I assumed that they would work together and provide us with one option, which would be their recommended option on the inclusion of Te Reo Māori name into the Wairarapa Event Centre.
We're going to vote on something we don't want to do, don't know what it is though.
It just makes me go back to Councillor Newman's first point about if we were gifted a name, we're not going to probably vote against it. And if we were gifted a name that we thought, how offensive will it be for us to say, no, we don't want that name? So I just wonder if we're opening a massive can of worms by saying, pick us a name and we'll vote on it later. I just wonder how that'll be perceived down the track.
I could see two motions working here. One is you make the decision to change the name. Two is that you invite iwi, that iwi be invited to advise if they wish to add a Māori name to that and to let us know what that might be.
Would you change the name to the Wairarapa Event Centre and invite iwi
To incorporate it.
to see if they would like to add a te reo name to that?
After it.
Well, it might be before it and then event centre gets dropped. It could be something Wairarapa or it could be just something.
I wonder if we should just vote,
Sorry, just vote on.
just vote on one of the motions,
Yeah.
because it might not
Go it with.
pass anyway, and we might just end up with the end of Wairarapa events.
Is there anyone who wishes to amend that motion?
Did you make an amendment?
No, I haven't moved it.
Hasn't been, he's just made it. So at the moment, the only one on the table is,
To be.
Jeff made a suggestion which was different to.
No, I
It's an
can't-
amendment.
I can't-
No,
I understand that.
It's an amendment. You can amend the motion that's already been put. That change the name to Carterton Event Centre to Wairarapa Event Centre, and that staff be instructed to engage with iwi to ascertain if they wish to have a Māori name incorporated. What would that be?
Or an additional Maori name.
An additional Māori name, because the focus is to gain on the branding of the Wairarapa Event Centre. Of this, this is a
Branding exercise.
So is that the same as what you moved? Lou?
I'm
Different?
super confused.
yeah.
I move what's written in the document.
Okay. Well,
Been amended.
I'll move.
You're moving the
I'll move
amendment?
I'll move
second the amendment.
And so just short words, what is the amendment?
That,
Just so we don't get into one of these.
deleting the words and also incorporate Te Reo Māori in the name and replacing it with staff be instructed to engage with iwi to ascertain if iwi want to add a Māori name to that and what that might be.
Additional Maori name.
Yeah, so it would read Wairarapa Event Centre Aratoi. No, not Aratoi.
or it could be something Wairarapa Event Centre.
Yeah, Joel.
Or something Wairarapa no event centre.
Yeah,
Joel.
good to know.
Clear as mud.
That was just like.
Who added that?
I've got it written down, yeah.
We're there.
Read it out.
So I've moved an amendment and
So it's been moved.
seconded. So we've moved a vote on the amendment. All in favour?
Can we just get Robin to read out what she's got?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, agrees to change the name from Carterton Event Centre to Wairarapa Event Centre and staff are instructed to engage with iwi if they wish to provide an
Ascertain if they
Māori name.
Okay.
ascertain.
Cool.
Add a Māori name to that.
So in terms of do they wish to add it, but also get it? Like not we want to, they're gonna come to us with some
Yep.
choices. Okay,
Staff will report back, basically.
okay.
So the motion is on the table. That's the amendment to the motion is on the table. All in favour?
Aye.
Go ahead.
Can we raise hands? So do we saw, that's one, that's 1, 2, 3.
I'm against.
You're against? Okay, so we're going to be 1,
Aye.
3, 4, 5 in favour and against. Do you wish the vote recorded or? Yes. So record councillor Della, councillor Gallen and councillor Aileen as against the amendment. Okay, so
Yes, no,
so the motion has now been amended, so we vote on the substantive motion, which is to, no.
So that-
Yes, so now we put the motion, the amended motion.
You are.
All right.
Yes.
We now put the amended
Put the amended
motion
motion.
to the meeting.
So all in favour of the amended motion, say aye. 2, 3, 4. And against. 3 against. Okay, so the motion has carried. I guess the challenge is around that word. Okay, so thank you. That has been,
before we move
Yes.
on, I've actually had people in our community say that when they watch the video recording, the screen of us at the table is tiny and they just have your big, can we switch it so
Yeah.
the actual main screen is the video of the table whilst we're recording?
Yeah,
Otherwise
it's
we could see
interesting because when,
They say they don't know who's speaking.
maybe,
And
Yeah.
just maybe that's true for now, but the recording is always like that, you know what I mean?
okay.
The recording is like that.
Okay.
But I need to talk to
That must be
David,
people that
I'll
have.
talk to David about people who, online might be different, but definitely recordings like that.
So that's a technical. So for those who are viewing, the explanation is
It's all good.
I have no idea of the explanation. It's all right. So before we go on to 8.2, I have been reliably informed that the main event has arrived. And we have a group of very hungry youth councillors. And I don't want to miss out on my pizza. So I call a short adjournment. That's what we do that. We don't.
You're the chair.
So we'll call a short adjournment, 15 minutes, chance to mix and mingle and have a conversation about how you think that all went, team. You can figure it out. You're way ahead of me. Yes, 6 o'clock on the dot back here. And to those who are viewing, we'll be back with you at 6 p.m. Thank you for being with us. Karakia Timatanga.